We're glad that you're joining us. We're doing sunflowers. We have a lot of different ways of doing sunflowers. I just have this one as my example. Then I have one with just orange for the shading. I have two that I brought just for fun, but we're going to do one. But I brought it because I wanted to show you a different way of doing the sky, an easier way of doing the sky. Instead of painting all the way in, you can just do little paintbrush strokes for the sky, and that still looks like a sky, and it's kind of easier that way. And then I have a sunflower with a big brown center. So there's lots of different sunflowers, so I brought examples. And the kids that are with us today are 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade, and 1 2nd grader. And they get to choose how they want to do their flower. We all draw the same flower, but you might end up painting it a little bit different depending on what you want. So we'll get started. You want to find the center of your paper with your hand that isn't drawing. Like if you're right-handed, obviously you use your left hand. And we're going to make a big circle that fills up pretty much the top part of our paper. And the easiest way to do this is do just what I was doing. Take your hand first, go around in a big circle, get fairly close to the top, and you'll come fairly close to the sides. Once you visualized it and pretended that you're drawing it, start actually drawing it. And I never ever try to draw a perfect circle the first time through. I always sketch one. And you can see what I'm doing with my sketching. Sketching means you use your pencil very lightly. And you might want to use a lot of strokes. And the more you go around this, you'll notice the more rounded out you can get it. If you try to make a perfect circle the first time through, usually it'll be too flat on one side or too narrow. And this way, if you keep going around it and use several strokes of your pencil, then you'll get a pretty good rounded out circle. And what this circle is it's going to be the outside edge of your sunflower. So it doesn't have to be an absolutely perfect circle because you're going to be putting petals in it, but you still want a pretty good, big, nice circle. And I'm checking on how the kids are doing. Takes a little while. Takes longer to do a circle usually than anything else for some reason. Okay, inside your circle, you're going to do a second circle for the center of your flower. And it's going to end up looking like a big donut on the top of your page. So you just sketch. You sketch it the same way. If you need to go around it first and imagine you're drawing it, then do that. But you're going to sketch it the same way. And don't bother to erase right now. Then you want to let your orange completely dry, because remember, unless you want colors to mix together, you let them dry before you add another color. And when your orange is totally dry, you're going to do the same thing with brown, but you've got to let that completely dry or it'll just all smear together. And you want it to look like seeds. This one is a good example. I let the orange dry and then I just added some brown. You know, with my paintbrush, of course, after this was dry. I'm not doing mine right now because it's not dry. But you want to add the brown to it. Or this sunflower just has orange and it doesn't have any brown. So if you like that, that's fine too. Then this one had the big center of all brown seeds. So if that's kind of sunflower you want, you can do that. So, you know, you can kind of take your pick on how you want to do these. I'm doing kind of the standard one that I usually do, which is the orange with the brown around it. I still, you know, if you're going to test to see if your paint's dry, it's a good idea not to touch it with your finger because that smears it. You just kind of look at it, and if it looks kind of flat looking, it just almost looks dry. And if it's shiny, it's still wet. So you can usually tell by looking at it. I know part of mine at least is dry, so I'm just going to do a little bit of these brown seeds so you can see how it looks. And don't overdo it. Leave some spaces where you see the orange, leave some spaces where you see the yellow, because you want a textured look. You want it to look like you know there are seeds in here and you're doing an artistic rendition of a sunflower. And you're putting this texture where it would be. So I'm done with my sunflower. And like I said before, usually we just stop and go do something else and let this totally dry. And then we come back and do the sky. Now I brought the different kinds of skies. This one is really simple because, deciding what to point to it with, because all you have to do is put in brush strokes of color. I actually added some purple to that one because I thought that was pretty. But what that does is it means you don't have to come so close to every little point of the flower. So in its own way, it's a lot easier. You don't have to come really close to anything. But oddly enough, in school, most of the time, the kids like painting in a beautiful, big, solid blue sky. I mean, I think they're both beautiful. But the kids, even though that one's probably easier, they tend to really want to paint the blue in. So the only thing that you have to remember when you start painting blue, which I'm not going to do right now, I'm going to give this plenty of time to dry, and the kids' work needs to dry, but you have to remember to hold your brush like a pencil and use this point, and you start right in. I guess it's odd. I'll go ahead and paint a little bit of it. It's kind of odd to demonstrate it and not have any color. You have to make sure that you use the tip of your brush and then just pull your paint out. But the way to get around these tips on the petals is you just get in between them really carefully, and then you can be a lot freer as you go farther out with your blue. And I use a little bit more water on my brush for this sky than I do on everything else because you have a big area to fill in. And once you get the part that is closest to the petals, then you can be real free and easy with the rest of it. You can go pretty quick. And the quicker you go, probably the better the color will look. Be nice and easy, nice and damp and easy. But just make sure you're careful every place that you have to go around something. Well, you know how to do that. I don't have to demonstrate that. But you would go really carefully in between your stems and leaves and everything with the point. And then when you're out in a bigger space, then you can just pull your paint out, draw your paint out. That's probably everything that I need to tell you since we're not all going to paint right now. So I hope that you've liked your sunflower and, you know, create exactly the kind of sky that you want. And we'll see you next time. Bye.